I say this all around the country, and I wanted to say it to you. It's really hard to understand a moment in history when you're in it. Right now, you're just watching me on a screen at home or on the road, and nothing about this moment feels historic. But we're in a deeply problematic period, not just in American history, but in human history. And it really requires us to stand up against the establishment, against the power structure, against anybody who is trying to manipulate the system and run over everyday people.
So deeply honored to be here with you this morning. Grateful to be here. I have so much that I'd like to say, but I first want to thank Dean Richardson and thank the chapel for having me here. Would you put your hands together for me? I thank God for stable leadership. And Dean Richardson is all of that. And in a very unstable time, and this chapel has been a stable presence, not just for DC, but for the entire country for a very, very long time. So to be here. I'm grateful that I have my wife and kids here with me. And listening to the dean, some of you only know me from my profile picture on Twitter. But before I was on Twitter, I was a pastor for many years. And I was actually a teenage preacher. And my wife was my girlfriend back then. And she was there all the way back in 1997, 21 years. I used to say 97, it didn't sound so long ago. But the older I get, the longer ago it sounds. That was 21 years ago. She was there when I preached my first sermon. I was 17 and in high school. And then later that summer, I got invited to speak at a CME conference out of town. She traveled with me. And we thought we were going to stay in the same hotel room together. And the CME bishop literally came to me and said, "You know you are going to stay in the same room, right?" And so we've been together for a very long time. And I'm glad they got us different rooms, and we might not have made it as far as we have, but I'm honored to be here, particularly in this time. I love Howard. And now I do have Howard jokes, but I also want to leave here in peace. But Howard also has more house jokes, and that's just how we do. This isn't quite a joke, but it's always our retort to Howard. Your first black president was a Morehouse man. So I'm saying, we can go back and forth a little bit, but I want you to love me this morning and not hate me. But our histories are actually so deeply intertwined. And we joke, but we must all support black colleges like our lives depend on them. Our lives do depend on black colleges. Amen. And they are, and there was this weird period in the early 2000s where people were talking about the relevance of HBCUs. And now all of a sudden, enrollment has exploded, and now it's abundantly clear that HBCUs are vital and will always be vital to our communities and cities. Many of you may have seen, we just announced on this past Thursday that we are restarting something called the North Star. And that was the abolitionist movement that two men, Frederick Douglass and a man named Dr. Mark Delaney, started And on Friday, when the family of Frederick Douglass found out that I was going to be here, they wanted me to understand, and yes, his family is still alive and still representing him in the most beautiful, powerful ways. They wanted me to understand how important Howard University was to Frederick Douglass. And not only was he a trustee for the final 25 years of his life, but he consistently, and this is powerful for me, he consistently and regularly donated to Howard. Like when you walk on this campus, you have to understand that the people who came before us, they weren't just here, they gave, they built. And I found something powerful. In 1875, 50 years before Howard actually had his first black president, Frederick Douglass was actually nominated to be the president of Howard University all the way back in 1875, but the board was not quite ready to make that shift. You have to understand, this was a man born in slavery, who escaped slavery. And I don't think it's an exaggeration. When I look at early reviews of his legacy, he really saw himself in so many ways as a graduate of Howard. He actually received an honorary doctorate from Howard University as well. He didn't have an opportunity to attend college, and he really, in so many ways, attached himself to this university. So as we start the North Star, we have not publicly announced it yet, but we have several institutional partners. And one of them is through the law school here at Howard. As the Thurgood Marshall Center is actually going to be an institutional partner of that project. And so, very, very proud of what there are two men in particular whose history and legacy had a huge impact on my life, who spent very important periods of their life here at Howard. And the first was one of the most revered deans of the chapel, Dr. Howard Thurman. And when Dr. Howard Thurman was a Morehouse graduate, and that's not me bragging, but he had a huge, he was in many ways, he provided depth, spiritual depth to the civil rights movement. And in the final weeks and months of his life, Dr. Martin Luther King, who regularly preached at this chapel, carried with him in his briefcase a book from Howard Thurman called Jesus and the Disinherited. And he was the dean of this chapel for many, many years. And another man who is not a Morehouse man, but we worship the ground he walks on, Benjamin Elijah Mays, was the dean of the School of Religion here at Howard University. And he was right before he became president at Morehouse. He was president of Morehouse for almost 30 years. He was the dean here. And so our histories from Morehouse and Howard are deeply interconnected. And all the places I could be and the time that I could be here, I'm just honored to be here. Thank you to all the volunteers. I was touched by the gifts from some of the student organizations as well. And I particularly am appreciative of the Muslim student organization and others. Although I have been a Christian my entire life, I've made it my business, particularly over these past few years, to stand up and fight against Islamophobia and its rising in this country. Today you may not see them, but my security, they are also Muslims. And so I make it my business. They stand for me, I stand for them, and that's our partnership. And so we live in such a problematic time. It's so problematic that it's hard to keep up. One question I get asked all the time is, Shaun, is it actually more problematic than it has been, or does social media just make it feel that way? And it's actually both. Hate crimes have risen now for 5 years in a row. They are the highest that they've been at any, which is why. When we think about police brutality and police violence, people often ask me, Shaun, I'm not sure, is it worse or does social media make it feel like it's worse? And 2018 is actually on pace to be the deadliest year ever measured for police brutality. So what's happening is, it is worse. And social media is allowing us to learn stories and hear stories from towns and cities and places that we normally would not have that information from. And so social media informs us, but I need you to understand it doesn't just feel worse, it is worse. Yesterday morning in Louisville, Kentucky, there were 2 funerals for 2 grandparents. One, Maurice Stollard, the other, Vicki Lee Jones, whose names we have not heard enough over this past week. But a white supremacist walked into a neighborhood grocery store, Kroger, in Louisville, Kentucky. Maurice Stollard, whose daughter is the chief diversity officer for the city of Louisville, was shopping at the grocery store with his grandson when a white supremacist, without even announcing himself, walked up to him and shot and killed him. As people fled the store, the man left the store and shot and killed another grandmother in the parking lot, Vicki Lee Jones. And it was 2 days later that we learned that before the man went to the grocery store, that he attempted to enter a black church, which had just finished a noonday Bible study. 3 days later, a white supremacist walks into a synagogue in Pittsburgh and kills 11 senior citizens. And all of that came the same week that another white supremacist, Trump supporter, mailed 14 bombs to President Obama, to Joe Biden, and to others all over this country. Thankfully, they found his fingerprint. And I thought there was something divine about this. They found his fingerprint on the bomb that he mailed to Maxine Watts.
Amen.
So it's like, she got you. You tried it. They put a dirty little fingerprint on the outside of, he put tape all over the packages, and they caught his fingerprint there. That was last week. I'm disturbed. I have 2 friends of mine, one who is one of the chief organizers of the Women's March, who's currently in Mexico, and she is with thousands of refugees who fled Central America, Honduras, and others, looking for asylum in the United States. Many of them and their families have been victims of gang violence and threats, and they have been walking, not dozens or hundreds, but they have walked now over 1,000 miles. I want you to understand, because you'll see me talk about them more over the next few days, it is the most broken, wounded, desperate group, primarily of women and children, that a country that calls itself a Christian nation should be eager to open their arms for. Instead, Donald Trump, saying his name I won't say his name again. That's the last time. He's ordered 15,000 troops. Look on my timeline. It's mainly women and children. Literally, they have blisters on their feet. The children many of them they literally walked 1,000 miles. Many of them are so sick that they're struck. By the time they get to the border, the group will be tiny. And he ordered, I don't know if you saw this, he said in a press conference that he had ordered the troops to shoot them if they threw rocks. Then, the government of Nigeria, you may have seen, shot and killed 45 protesters. And the day after, they played the video at their press conference of Donald Trump saying he would shoot people at the border if they threw rocks. And they literally used his words to justify shooting and killing nonviolent protesters. That was last week. Last week. We live in a problematic time. And I understand, I do understand this, and I often think it, and I bet many of us in the room think it. I am so frequently frustrated with people who call themselves Christian that I am sometimes embarrassed that they call themselves what I call myself.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm talking about? It's like, we can't be the same thing.
Right.
This is not, one is not the other. And it's so problematic for the faith that more and more people are saying, if those are Christians, I want nothing to do with that. And listen, I understand. My brother, my blood brother, passed away just about a month ago. And so many of you sent me warm notes and messages, and he was one of the most important people in my life in terms of his support and love. And he and I both were pastors. And I spoke to him in the final days of his life. I traveled, the whole family and I traveled to Atlanta to be there with him. And he and I both had grown very frustrated with the American church. So much so that we really weren't part. We didn't really see ourselves as being part of it. We love God, we prayed, we resonate with the Gospels. We'd grown so frustrated with the church. And one of the final things he said to me, which I think about regularly, was he felt like he had made a bit of a mistake. Allowing his frustration with American Christians, and I put quotation marks around that, causing him to really leave the church. And he told me, and it's something I think about for the rest of my life, he told me he didn't expect to pass away and not be a part of the church. He'd been a part of the church his entire life. It's caused my whole family and I to reconsider our relationship with the church. The final words you say to somebody, the final days of your life, you really make them matter. And there are two passages of scripture that I want to share with you this morning that literally came in the final days of the life of Jesus on earth. I don't mean to say that some verses are more important than others, but I think when we look at all of the Gospels, when we look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we see the words of Jesus in the day of, or the day before, or the week before his death, which he knew was coming, we should take those final words that he spoke, we should take them and carefully consider them, because he was really trying to leave his disciples instructions. And I think about this sometimes, that every one of us in the room that identifies ourselves as Christians, if we go all the way back, if we traced who you learned about the gospel from, and who they learned, and who they, eventually we could trace it back generations and generations, all the way to Jesus and these disciples. And knowing that he would no longer walk the earth, I want you to understand how young Jesus was when he died. J. Cole is 33. Jesus was 33. Does that help you understand? Like, Kendrick Lamar is 31. And so when we meet Jesus early in the Gospels, he's 30. And so, like, he's like Kendrick and J. Cole's age. So the young people in the room, I see my daughter gave me a head nod of approval. I just want you to understand, this was a young man in his last days trying to make them count. So there are two passages of scripture I'd like to read with you. The first is in John 14:12. And if you have a Bible, you can turn there. If you have an app, you can click over there with me. John 14:12. I think John 14:12 is one of the most revolutionary verses in the Bible. And I'll unpack why that is. John 14:12. If I had been an editor of the Bible, I would have cut this verse. I would not have included this. And in fact, theologians often say that one of the reasons that we should believe the Bible is it's not edited in a way, like if you got a chance to write the Bible, you would not write some of this. It's edited in a way that it often has verses that don't seem like you're trying to tell a story about a powerful God. Like sometimes the stories are fragile. It tells the story of broken people who make horrible mistakes. And there's a verse here, John 14:12, that's truly revolutionary. I'll read my version to you. Yours may be slightly different. Jesus, he's speaking to his disciples, and he is literally about to be arrested and executed. It says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father." Let me read that verse one more time. "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I'm going to the Father." I'd like to speak to you this morning from a topic. Do you do topics here? I'd like to speak to you this morning from the topic that Jesus is the starting point, not just the standing. Jesus is the starting point and not just the standing. Sometimes when I read the Bible, I'm encouraged. And sometimes I read it and it scares me to death. And there's a longer passage that I want to read to you, and I'll bring these two together. It's in Matthew 25. This is one of those passages that when I read it, it's like, yeah, nobody taught me this. Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46. It's a long passage, but I want you to hear it. Again, in Matthew 25, we meet Jesus in the final days of his life, and he's trying to explain to a ragtag group of people who he is and what it means to follow him. And he tells a story that he's trying to use as an illustration, and it actually has a horrible ending. And we often share little small parts of this and cut the ending out, but I need you to see the beginning, middle, and end. Let me read it to you. Matthew 25, 31 through 46. These are the words of Jesus. Jesus says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne, and all of the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He'll put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. In this story, listen, you don't want to be a goat in this story. I just want to illustrate that. It says, then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by the Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. When I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. And the people were confused. And the righteous said to him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or when did we see you thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we ever see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? Lord, when did we ever see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? And the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Now, we like to end it right there, but there's a little mini horror movie that comes in 41 through 46. This is like the biblical version of Halloween right here. Then the king speaks to those on his left. And listen, no, again, I wouldn't have included this if I was writing the Bible myself. It says, then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed. Listen, he says, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. That's harsh. For I was hungry and you gave me nothing to eat. Stingy. No snacks, nothing. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you did not look after me. And they too were confused. And they said, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and didn't help you? And he looked at them stoically and said, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. And verse 46 is scary. Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life.
Amen.
I want to speak to you about Jesus not just being the standard, but the starting point for what it means to be a Christian on this earth. In John 14:12, Jesus is looking at his disciples and he's trying to tell them, listen, I'm about to leave this place. He even says some really horrible stuff. He says, listen, a few of you are even going to betray me. You have to realize, these men had spent years together, day in and day out, preparing food for one another. So in essence, they were functionally homeless, traveling from town to town, city to city, staying wherever they could, and they were close. Now there's the Bible that you read, And there's the subtext, there are the hidden stories. Historians say that these men probably sang songs with one another, that they cracked jokes, shared their hopes and dreams. It's not included in the text, but you can read any one of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You can read any one of those in about 20 minutes. So the writers have condensed about 3 years down to 20 minutes. These men regularly prepared meals for one another. They cleaned up after one another. They washed their clothes with one another. They had pain in their body. They struggled in this, and Jesus tells them something painful. He said, one of you is going to betray me, and another of you is going to deny you even know me. And all 12 of them are stumped, wondering, ooh. He begins explaining to them what he hopes it's going to look like when he leaves. And he says something that I think is completely missing, not just from American Christianity, but from our very basic understanding of what it means to be a Christian. John 14:12 is Jesus in one verse saying, here's what it means to follow me. He says, very truly I tell you. Let me break the verse down carefully. Verse 12, John 14:12 starts out with those 5 words. Very truly I tell you. I find those words interesting because all the way back in the other passage that I read, in Matthew 25, verse 40, the king in that story also said, and the reason the king said, truly I tell you, wasn't because the king says, truly I tell you, it's just because Jesus told that story. When Jesus, do you know, like there's a time when you're talking to people you love and you need them for a moment to just shut up and listen? Like, sometimes we're just talking to our friends and family, and other times we're like, no, I need you to listen to me. Like, when I send emails out, or when I send emails out, I put some stuff in bold print. That means, I want you to read the whole email, but I really want you to see what's in bold print. If any of you actually get my emails, does anybody in the room get emails from me? Sometimes, thank you. Sometimes I even highlight some stuff in yellow. And it's like, okay, read it all, but if you're in a hurry, pay attention to what's bold, what's in yellow. When Jesus says, very truly I tell you, that's his version of highlighting it in yellow, putting it in bold. It's not saying, hey, everything else I just said wasn't important, but what I'm about to tell you is particularly important. John 14:12, he begins with those words, very truly I tell you. That's the sign to us as readers that what's about to come, we need to pay attention to it. Pay attention to it all. What's about to come is very important. He says, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing. And I love that he says that, whoever believes in me, because it's universal. It does not say, listen, my wife and I both have undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees, and we believe in education, and we're here at Howard University. But I'm glad it did not say in the verse, whoever has a graduate degree. I'm glad it didn't say, whichever Jewish people believe in me. Whichever Muslims believe in me. It says, whoever believes in. I'm glad it doesn't say, whatever man believes in me. Whatever woman, it left the door wide open. It says, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing. I kid you not, I've been stuck on this verse for about 15 years. Because for most of my life, we held Jesus as the pinnacle, as the standard that we were to aspire to. And listen, I'm not saying he's not a good standard. But Jesus says in this verse, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing. He said, listen, the starting point for following me is doing the same things you just saw me do. It's not the goal, it's the starting point. And many of us spend not just our early days as Christians, but spend our entire lives just trying to get to the level that he was in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Jesus says, no, actually, that's just where you start. He said, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing. And here's what I love about Scripture, what I love about the Gospels. Christians often make it a bumbling mess of what it means to be a Christian. But that story that I shared with you in Matthew 25, verses 31 through 46, Jesus made clear that being a Christian is not so much about so many of the things that we make it out to be, but it's about feeding the hungry, giving water to the thirsty, inviting strangers in, clothing those who don't have it, visiting the sick, visiting people in prison. And here's what I'm concerned about, because in Matthew 25, in those last 5 verses, it says if you're not doing those things, God doesn't even know you. I watch all these prayer breakfasts that happen around D.C. I just wonder. I saw this. I wish I could have brought it. I thought about it this weekend. There's this meme of a white man who is supposed to be Jesus. Already the meme is wrong, just a bad. The meme that lacks historical accuracy just from the start. But it's a white Jesus, and he's carrying all of this luggage. And the caption to it says something to the effect that he's moving back into the White House now that Obama is gone. And I looked at that meme this weekend and I said, no, that's just a white man with a lot of baggage. And that meme is accurate. There is a white man with a whole lot of baggage who moved into the White House. But it wasn't Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
This is a white man with baggage.
Amen.
Because when I apply, here's the thing, this isn't my standard. In this passage, Matthew 25, Jesus looks at them and tells again a horror story, and he says, listen, there are people who do these things and there are people who don't, and the people who do are going to be in heaven with me, and the people who don't are going to a place, it says here, they will go away to eternal punishment. Now some people will say, well, Shaun, you can't work your way into heaven. No, I'm not saying that either. What Jesus is saying is people who love God,
Amen,
in their heart will find themselves doing these things. It's not that you do these things and just find your way into heaven. It's when you love God, you make it your business to do these things. So I'm trying. When I see hungry, homeless people walking thousands of miles, try to come to this place for safety, and hear a man who professes to be Christian say he might have no shot. Right now, as we speak in the safety of this auditorium, there are nearly 15,000 children living in what should be described as internment camps all over this country. 15,000 children who've been separated from family, friends, and loved ones are living in separated, secure government housing. I'm actually a historian by training. My undergraduate and graduate degrees are in history. And I say this phrase I'm about to say all the time. It's hard to understand a moment in history when you're in it. But history will look back on this time and say, they have 15,000 kids locked up in camps. He threatened to shoot hungry people who were marching to the border for freedom and safety. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing. I want you, I particularly thinking about the young people in the audience, but this is for all of you. I want all of us to evaluate our lives and say, if someone looked at my life, would they know I was a Christian if I didn't say it with my mouth?
Amen.
If I didn't check the box on Facebook, would somebody be able to look at me and say, wow, that person looks like those on the right in Matthew 25? Jesus spelled out the starting point for what it meant to follow him. He said, just do the things I've been doing. So for any of you who are in the room and you get confused sometimes of what does it mean to be a Christian? The starting point, just read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, see what Jesus was doing, and do those things in your own way. So I see and hear people sometimes who say, listen, I don't see how anybody in this time could be a part of a white man's religion. That gives white people way too much credit for this religion, personally. I don't even know if there's a white person in the Bible. Paul is amazing. I don't know, that's a stretch.
Right.
But you have to get to literally the last 10% of the book until the first white person even shows up. Historians and archaeologists and others have created physical depictions of what they believe Jesus actually looked like. And people want nothing to do with that. Christianity belongs to white people as much as soul food belongs to white people. Now, soul food has a complicated history.
Yes, yes, yes.
Some of that stuff was forced upon us. And we made it our own and seasoned it differently, and some stuff that they were throwing away, we took it and did some other stuff with it. That's true. But that's not the white man's food. That's our food. This faith is our faith. We've taken it and adopted it and made it our own. And any true evaluation of this faith will show that there are expressions and practices that are uniquely ours. And I'm proud that when we look at the type of Christianity that has even emerged from Howard University, it is a Christianity full of people who don't just talk the talk, but walk the walk.
Amen.
Here's where it gets tricky for me. John 14:12 again says, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I've been doing. And then Jesus said something peculiar. Again, I would have cut this, I would have deleted this little part out. Jesus said, if you believe in me, you'll do the works I've been doing, and you'll actually go on and do even greater things than these. That's peculiar. And as I've evaluated that little part of the verse, you will do even greater things than these, it has perplexed theologians for a long time, and they have basically disagreed with each other on what that means. And they have kind of fallen into two camps. The first camp is when Jesus said you will do even greater things than these. The first camp is you will do what Jesus did, but you will do it in larger numbers. That is, he was only able to provide food and drink and safety and security and support to a small number of people. And when Jesus said, hey, you'll do these things, but you'll actually do even greater things, some theologians say all that means is you will do what Jesus did, but you'll do it in greater numbers. And then there's another theological camp that says, no, what it actually means is Jesus was saying, you will do all of these things, but you'll do it in a way that's deeper. So some theologians are saying what Jesus meant was do it, but do it wider. And other theologians are saying, no, you'll do what Jesus did, but you'll go deeper. And some theologians say what he's talking about there is something spiritual, that you'll feed people spiritually, that you'll free people who are captive spiritually. I think it's taken me probably almost 15 years to settle that I think it's both. That when I look at the broad swath of Jesus' ministry, that it was about reaching people spiritually and actually feeding them. Reaching them spiritually and actually freeing them. Visiting them. Caring for them physically. With your own body, your own life, and your own resources. But somehow or another, we have put the bar of what it means to be a Christian at Jesus' life. But Jesus said, how many parents are there in the room? When I first read this, I was a new parent, didn't fully understand. I have 5 kids, and my oldest is now off in college, and now I see this differently. When Jesus is looking at these disciples that he loved and believed in, all he's really saying is, listen, all the stuff you've seen me do, please do better than me. And parents, you know what that the spirit of that should resonate with you, because all of us want our kids to experience more, achieve. You want your life to be the starting point for your kids, not the box, right? And in this passage, I think it's Jesus is saying, listen, the starting point for how you follow me, do what I did. My dream for you. And I love this morning that we sang about dream, beautiful dream, an impossible dream. And dreams have always been a deep, rich part of our culture, because we always understand that everything that needs to happen in this world, some of it's just not going to happen in our lifetime. And Jesus, knowing that he has very little time left, says, my dream for you is to not just do what I did. My dream for you is to do even greater. I think that the person we put at the center of our faith, that we call Savior, would stare into the eyes of his followers and not say, bow down at my feet. Didn't ask for a love offering. He said, the greatest way you could honor me is for a little bit mimic me, but then for the rest of your life, do even better. And I know there are a lot of people misrepresenting this faith. No matter how badly they misrepresent it, this year, next year, the year after that, for decades to come, one, we need to understand that they've always been misrepresented. Like, that's not new. This is a new expression of it. But I want you to remember the beautiful humility of Jesus saying, I'm not even asking for worship as much as I'm asking you to mimic and then expand and do greater. Let that be your worship. I think these next few days, I'll close with this. I think these next few days are actually going to be very difficult. I don't say that to be a downer. I'm friends with a man, Brian Schatz. He's the senator from Hawaii, the U.S. senator from Hawaii. Brian's just a few years older than me. Brian, who's Jewish, this is a powerful, I didn't know this just until recently. Brian's father, who was a white Jewish man, was the first person to expose the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. His father was the whistleblower on that experiment. And Brian is now the U.S. Senator from Hawaii. And 11 days ago, before the first mail bomb was sent, before Maurice Stallard and Vicki Lee Jones were shot and killed, before the 11 senior citizens at the temple in Pittsburgh were murdered, literally the night before, Brian wrote on Twitter, and I've gone back and forth with him on this. Brian wrote on Twitter, and he was embarrassed that I said it was prophetic. He said, I don't know what's going to happen this week, but I think it's going, I'd like to go back and read it. He said, I think it's going to be bad. And he said, and I mean it in the worst way. And literally the next day was when the white supremacists killed Vicki Lee Jones and Maurice Stallard in the first mail bombs. Like, he had a feeling. And many of us, before I came out this morning, were remembering what it felt like the day after he was elected. I'm treating him like Voldemort now for all of the Harry Potter fans. Said I wouldn't say his name anymore. And we were down. And I think looking back now, almost 2 years to the day, it's because I think we understood that this was all that we were about to experience. I want you to understand that I think over the next few days, I think and hope there are going to be some amazing victories. I believe that. I believe that. I also think there are going to be some surprising losses. This country is not quite what we thought it was. Not quite where we believed it to be. I want you to understand that we are tied to something timeless, and something true that does not change with breaking news or wins or losses come Tuesday. That our job at its root is for Jesus to be our starting point,
Amen.
and then for us to expand from there. God bless you so much. Thank you.